Hello and welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredible work of Dr. Alan Frusetti to understand high-conflict couples and, more importantly, to find a path back to peace. This is such a critical topic, and we want to give a special thanks to the Newdri Clinic in San Lorenzo for helping us bring this discussion to you. They're a leading clinic in their region, specializing in areas like psychoanalysis and couples therapy, so we really appreciate their support. This quote from Dr. Marshall Linehan, a real pioneer in behavioral therapy, basically says, "No relationship is just smooth sailing." And that really says it all, doesn't it? Conflict happens. It's a part of life. But what we're here to figure out is this. Why, for some of us, does a tiny disagreement, like over where the car keys are, somehow explode into an all-out war? What is really going on in those moments? Okay, so let's unpack this mystery. If you want to break a pattern, you first have to understand how the machine actually works. And here's the key. It's not really about what you're fighting about. It's about how the fight unfolds. And as you're about to see, there's a predictable and pretty destructive cycle at play here. I want you to just picture this scene for a second. Sally gets home, she's totally exhausted, and all she wants is a little bit of support. So she says, "Man, what a day." Ron, her partner, is just glued to his computer and barely even looks up. Now for Sally, that isn't just a distraction, it feels like a dagger, a total invalidation. She feels hurt, and so what comes out of her mouth isn't, "Hey, I need you," but a sharp, "You know what? Never mind." Ron, for his part, is just relieved to avoid a heavy conversation, which of course hurts Sally even more. A few minutes later, the fight explodes. But it's not about her day anymore, is it? Suddenly, it's about him being selfish and her being crazy. Sound familiar to anyone? So what just happened there with Sally and Ron? That wasn't random. Not at all. It followed a very clear, destructive pattern. It all kicks off with emotional agitation. That's Sally's initial hurt. This immediately leads her to make negative judgments, right? He doesn't care about me. From there, her expression becomes inaccurate. She uses a harsh tone instead of just saying, "I'm feeling sad." And then finally comes the partner's invalidation, Ron's distracted response, which just throws gasoline on the fire. You see how each step fuels the next? It creates this vicious, escalating loop. So, what's the engine driving this whole cycle? What's the real source? Well, Dr. Frusetti identifies one primary culprit, the root from which all this stuff grows. Let's take a closer look at what that is. The real problem, the absolute heart of the matter, is something called emotional dysregulation. Think of it like a tipping point. It's that exact moment when an emotion gets so intense, so overwhelming, that it completely hijacks your rational brain. It's like the emotion has flooded the cockpit. All logic goes out the window, perspective is gone, and all that's left is pure, raw reactivity. And in that state, well, constructive communication is pretty much impossible. And here is one of the most important secrets to understanding these fights. The anger, that big explosion, is almost never the real feeling. It's what we call a secondary emotion. It's a protective shield. Underneath all that anger, there's a primary emotion, a much more vulnerable one. Sadness, fear, maybe loneliness. Sally wasn't truly angry at Ron. She was sad and feeling alone. But anger feels safer than vulnerability, right? So that's what comes out, and it's what keeps that fire burning. All right, so if emotional dysregulation is the problem, how in the world do we start to fix it? Well, the very first step isn't about talking to your partner. Not yet. It's about doing the internal work first. It's about learning to manage our own emotions before they manage us. The goal here is to find what dialectical behavior therapy calls our wise mind. Now, this isn't about ignoring your emotions, and it's not about becoming some kind of logic robot either. It's that perfect sweet spot in the middle, that place where you can acknowledge your feelings without being totally swept away by them. Your wise mind is where your heart and your head come together, allowing you to see the situation clearly and act effectively. So how do you actually get to this wise mind when you're seeing red? The technique is surprisingly simple. You describe, you don't judge. So instead of attacking yourself with thoughts like, "Ugh, I shouldn't be so needy," you just describe the feeling to yourself. "I am feeling sadness." Just naming that primary feeling, without all the baggage of judgment, actually starts to lower its intensity. It's the first step to disarming the whole cycle. Okay, so once we get a handle on regulating ourselves through acceptance, we're ready for the second part of the dance. This is the interactive skill, the one that really transforms the entire dynamic of the conflict. And that skill is validation. Validation is, and I'm not exaggerating here, maybe the single most powerful tool for putting out the fire of a conflict. It's the simple act of communicating to your partner that you understand their internal experience. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about showing that you hear them and you accept that their feelings are real and legitimate for them. I mean, deep down, isn't that what we all want most? To just feel seen and understood? And now for the distinction that could change everything for so many couples out there. Validating is not the same thing as agreeing. Saying, I can understand why what I said made you feel hurt is not the same as saying you are right and I am wrong. It just means, from your point of view with your history and your feelings, it makes sense to me that you would feel that way. This tiny shift in language is the key that unlocks everything. You can validate your partner's feelings without giving up your own perspective. So, let's put it all together now. When you combine the inner work of acceptance with the outer skill of validation, you create an entirely new way of interacting with each other, one that actually builds intimacy instead of tearing it down. This is the new choreography. This is the new dance. Instead of agitation leading to judgment, you practice acceptance to calm yourself down first. And instead of attacking and defending, you offer validation so your partner feels safe and heard. This cycle of acceptance and validation, it replaces the battlefield with safe ground. It turns what used to be a conflict into a genuine opportunity for connection. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that changing these destructive patterns is absolutely possible. It's not about never disagreeing again. It's about learning how to navigate those moments without hurting each other. Change doesn't happen overnight, of course, but it does start with a single choice. And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is the smallest, simplest step you can take today to start practicing this new dance in your own relationship?